If I had to lose 30 pounds in 90 days, I wouldn't cut out carbs, starve myself, or do endless cardio. I'd follow a system I've used to help hundreds of guys lose their gut and actually keep it off. Because you see, most people fail because they wing it. They diet hard for 3 weeks, burn out, and gain it all back. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through exactly what I would do step by step to lose 30 pounds in 90 days without ruining your life. And trust me, by the end, you'll realize fat loss isn't magic, it's momentum. Let's jump right into it. Okay, guys, phase number one is what I like to call locking in the foundation phase. And you're gonna do this phase for the first 2 weeks. And there's 5 things that you need to do. The very first thing you need to do before you do anything is you have to get your weekly weight average and you have to take your before photos. So I'm gonna rip through all these points fairly quickly today because we have 20 in total. So the weekly weight average. So of course, if you're looking to lose about 30 pounds in 90 days, 90 days is roughly about 12 weeks, maybe 13, but we'll call it 12 weeks. So your goal essentially is you want to lose about 2.5 pounds in those every week for 12 weeks. Now, for your before photos, definitely take them as well without your shirt off. That way you compare them a month from now, because if you just focus on weight, you're definitely missing out a big part of the equation. The second thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna make 2 to 3 simple nutrition changes. So we're not gonna worry about counting calories yet. 2 to 3 low-hanging fruits. Like, what do you know that you could be doing better at in terms of nutrition? And I'll give you some examples. Maybe instead of having like 10 beers a week, you have 5 beers a week. Maybe instead of having like takeout 2 to 3 times per week, maybe you have it once per week. Maybe instead of having like chips at night, you avoid the chips, you substitute it for a lower calorie option. And we'll get to that more of that later on. But I want you to write down and think of 2 to 3 low-hanging fruits that you can change right away, and that'll just kind of accelerate your weight loss, and you'll start to see some positive momentum going forward. The third thing that we're gonna do is you're gonna add 1 walk-in every single day. Don't worry about counting steps yet. All I want you to do, try to get in a 15 to 30-minute walk every single day and make it a non-negotiable. We'll talk about step count later, but for now in the first 2 weeks, let's get the ball rolling and get the step count up just a little bit by adding a walk every single day. The fourth thing that you have to plan is you have to decide where, when, and how we're working out. So let's break it down. The first thing, where. So where do you plan to work out? Like, is it at your house? Is it at a gym? Is it at your condo? Like, whatever it is, like, where are you planning to work out? The when part, and most guys make this mistake. When do you plan to work out? Like, is it Monday, Wednesday, Fridays? Is it morning? Is it evening? The more specific you can be with that, the better. And try to make it non-negotiable, because the more you can have that routine, you're going to stick with it long term. And the how. Now, we'll talk about the how later on in this video, so stick to it, but you just gotta know where and when for now, and we'll talk about the how in section number 2 in terms of working out. Okay, step number 5, and the last one for phase number 1 is you have to increase your protein and decrease your carbs and fats. Now, you don't have to worry about counting protein yet, like that's gonna be later on in the video, but for now, kind of tying back to the point I talked about earlier, where we gotta make some nutrition changes, let's start getting more protein in our diet and really make a point of it. I'll give you 2 to 3 very quick examples that you can do. And these shouldn't be, that earth breaking for you. They're pretty self-explanatory. Instead of having pasta for dinner, for example, maybe we want like a chicken breast. Duh, right? Or instead of having like a lot of nuts or maybe chips for a snack that have like those high fats, maybe we want like Greek yogurt. So try to make like protein changes and substitute those carbs and fats. If you do that, and if you follow these 5 steps in phase number 1, you guys are gonna see some results right off the bat. Now in the rest of the video, we'll talk about how to build off of that. Okay, phase number 2, guys, is gonna be the building momentum phase, and you're gonna do this between days 15 to 45. And the very first thing that you need to do in this phase is we're gonna try to find some low calorie swaps. Now, this is a bit different than we talked about in phase 1 with the low hanging fruits. The low calorie swaps, these are gonna be things that you really shouldn't even notice that much of a difference in. And I'll give you some examples. So let's say you typically drink Coke. We wanna sub maybe Coke for a Diet Coke, because you're gonna save about 150 calories just like that. Now, let's say another example, you cook with olive oil. I can't remember if it's a tablespoon or teaspoon, but it's about 120 calories for that. And if you cook and switch to 0-calorie cooking spray, we save 120 calories just like that. So very 2 simple things you can do right there. Another one, coffee. So let's say you have a lot of like cream and sugar in your coffee. If you either go black coffee or even just sub it out by a cream and sugar, or two, again, you're saving hundreds of calories. So think of a few low calorie swaps you can do, guys. The more you can build up, the more it's going to make fat loss effortless for you. Okay, guys, the second thing that we're going to do, building off phase number one, is we're going to lift weights 3 to 4 times per week for 45 minutes. Now, you can definitely include this in phase number one if you have the capacity for it, but for a lot of us, it's good to just kind of build that momentum first. But 3 to 4 times per week, guys, I want you to focus on weight training. Don't worry about burning yourself out with cardio. I made so many videos on that, so I'm not going to elaborate on it too much. But if you want an example in terms of like a weight training plan you could do, I'll leave a gym sample week you can do and a home sample week you can do in the comments below. So feel free to download it there for free. The third thing that we're going to do is we're going to try to increase our protein to 0.8 grams per body weight in pounds. So if that seems obnoxious for you, and I'll tell you to do that in just 1 second, we'll build up to it. But let's say you weigh 200 pounds, for example. Ideally, you want to be targeting close to 160 grams per day now. 200 times 0.8 equals 160, of course. So do the best you can, guys, to build up to that number. And I say build up to it because you don't have to jump to it right away. Because remember, in phase one, we talk about increasing our protein. Now we want to be a little more deliberate in terms of how much we're getting in, and we start to count it a bit more. So do the best you can to work up to 0.8 grams per body weight in pounds. The fourth thing you need to do here is you have to emphasize your sleep. Now, you can definitely include this in phase number one, like in a perfect world, but sleep, guys, is so important when it comes to fat loss. If you're sleeping like crap, it's going to make losing fat so much harder because your hunger cravings are going to skyrocket and you're just not going to feel like working out or walking or doing anything. So do the best you can, guys, to emphasize your sleep. And like I said, you could definitely do this in phase number one if you want to kind of fast track this a little bit. Okay, guys, the last thing that you need to do for phase number two is you have to start meal prepping or at least planning. Now, let me give you 3 examples of what you can do. Option A, and this is what I do, you can meal prep for 2 days. So for example, if I cook chicken on Monday, I'll cook it leftover for Tuesday. If I cook chicken or whatever, fish on Wednesday, I'll cook it for Thursday. So you're basically kind of cooking for 2 days opposed to kind of planning out the full week. Which leads me to option number B. You definitely can meal prep for the full week if that's something that you enjoy. So obviously for this, you basically, cook everything on the Sunday and you would have all your meals prepared for the whole week, at least your lunches. Like that's something that you could do. I personally prefer option A because it gives you a little more flexibility and you're not living out of a container for the full week. And the third thing you can do, this is kind of more meal planning. So you don't have to prep, but what you have to do is, let's say Sunday, you want to make sure you grocery shop and prepare all your ingredients, and you're not really, cooking leftovers and batch cooking, but when you get home from work, you have your meals that you know you're going to eat, and you just have to execute on those. Because what you don't want to do, guys, is basically just wing it. So if you do option C here in the meal planning, know what you're going to have throughout the course of the week, have the ingredients prepared, and then when you get home from work, you just got to follow the plan that you made for yourself. Okay, guys, phase number 3 is going to be refining this system, and you're going to do this between days 45 to 75. And the very first thing that you need to do is you have to have a full progress check. Now, of course, you should be kind of checking your weight and, just kind of seeing how everything's going the first 4 to 6 weeks or so. But now after 6 weeks, you got to make sure and you got to assess where exactly you're at. So we're talking about your weight, like how your weight's been doing. You need new photos, so compare your before and after photos. How do your clothes fit? Measurements ideally. Try to do everything you can, guys, to see how good you're doing in terms of results. And then if things maybe aren't up to par, we'll talk about this later on in phase number 3, then we have to make 2 to 3 changes. But for now, guys, make sure you have that progress check, weight, clothes tests, and before and after photos. See where you're at, and we'll talk about later in this phase what you need to do if you are stuck or you have to improve on what you're building on. All right, guys, you ready for this? The second thing that you should be doing here is you should be tracking your calories. I say should be doing, because every single person doesn't have to do this, because for some people, they can't stand the thought of it and it's unsustainable for them. But by now, you built some momentum, you're on about month or say week number 7, you should really start to dial it in and ideally track for at least a few weeks. Now, in terms of how many calories you should be taking in, body weight in pounds times 10 is a very good general rule of thumb. And for maybe you're kind of wondering, like, why am we doing this in phase number 1 or number 2? You definitely can, guys, but just for a lot of people, it's a little bit overwhelming to track calories within the first 4 to 6 weeks. So just kind of, know and assess who you are. If you think you have the capacity for it, definitely track calories earlier. But on the other end, if you can't track your calories and like there's just no way you can sustain it, we'll talk on another video, which I'll link at the end, what you can do to shred your belly fat. The third thing that you're going to want to do is you want to introduce strategic cheat meals. Now, this is not to say that you can't have like cheat meals within your first 6 weeks. But if you aren't tracking calories, guys, it makes having cheat meals a little more, we'll call it a slippery slope and subjective, because we're just kind of guessing what we're eating. And a lot of times we're having just way more calories than you think. So there's a reason why I put introduce cheat meals after tracking calories. And I only recommend having strategic cheat meals if you are tracking your calories regularly. Like for myself, I pizza whiskey every single weekend, but it's all part of a plan because I have it down to a system. But ideally, guys, you want to have some sort of like cheat meals in your life, because if you're just doing this for the rest of your life, and we'll talk about more on this in phase number 4, you're going to burn out, and this is not what we want. So make sure you are starting to introduce those cheat meals, especially if you're tracking those calories. The fourth thing that you want to do, and it's a very straightforward one, is try to work up to 10,000 steps per day. Now, again, this is something that you can do earlier on if you have the capacity for it. But we talked about earlier that we just want to go for a walk every single day. Now we actually want to have like a set target and build up to a number. If 10,000 sounds pretty obnoxious to you, don't worry, like build up to it. So maybe you're at 6, maybe the next week try 7, next week try 8. Do the best you can to kind of get that positive momentum. What I'm trying to say here, guys, try to build up to 10K steps per day the best you can. And the last thing that you need to do for this phase is you have to self-assess, and you have to pick 2 to 3 things that you know that you could be doing better on. So what are 2 to 3 low-hanging fruits right now, like, well, I should say right now, once you're in this phase, that you could potentially improve on? So maybe for you, it's like getting your workouts in more consistently. Maybe it is getting 10,000 steps per day. Maybe it's tracking your calories more consistently. So whatever it is, guys, you want to self-assess, and you want to pick 2 to 3 things that you know that you could do being better on. That's horrible English, but I'm just going to roll with it. I'm not going to edit this. So just kind of self-reflect, guys. And if you have that, then it's going to set you up for success in the last few weeks or so. Okay, guys, phase number 4 is going to be the lifestyle phase. And this will be a combination towards pushing towards the finish line, but also managing life and not living like a robot. So the very first thing that you need to do in this phase is try reducing tracking your calories and focus on the system and the habits. Because what you don't want to do, guys, you don't want to be counting calories for the rest of your life, right? So try to veer off it a little bit and kind of see and test yourself in terms of how you're doing. Like for me, I never track calories anymore. I have pizza, whiskey every single weekend, and I still basically stay at 10 to 12% body fat all year round, because I just know like when I'm having more calories than I should be, or I'm eating too few calories than I should be having. So it's all part of the system, guys. Test yourself here, reduce the calorie tracking a little bit to see where you are, because we want to make sure you're set up for life. Once you drop 30 pounds in 90 days, you don't want to just lose 30 pounds in 90 days and then gain it all back because it was unsustainable. The second thing that you're going to want to do in this phase is you're going to want to sprint for 2 weeks. So remember I talked about like you want to make sure it's a lifestyle phase, but at the same time, we're going to push you towards the finish line for the 90 days. Well, now I want you to think about really dialing it in for these 2 weeks. So like get your protein up, get your workouts in, get your step count up, do everything you can and push yourself to that finish line, because we want to make sure, guys, we finish this fat loss phase strong. So really almost like gamify it and push yourself the best you can and finish off strong with these 2 weeks. The third thing that you're going to want to do here, and this is so important, is you have to set your next goal before this phase ends. So let's say you're on day, like whatever it is now, 75 to 80, and you're almost at your 30 pounds in 90 days. Where most guys mess up is we lose the 30 pounds in 90 days. We feel fantastic. We're celebrating. Everything's great. But then we don't have a goal that comes after it, and we just tend to fall off track. So once you're kind of done or at the end of the 90 days and your fat loss goal, you got to think like, what do you want to work on next? Like, is it kind of like maybe you got to build muscle? Is it maybe you got to increase your strength? Whatever it is, you have to set a quantifiable goal for at least the next 2 to 3 months. This will keep you motivated, and this will make sure you don't get off track, because in point number 4 here, you're going to see this pretty alarming statistic for most guys and most people in general. All right, guys, the fourth thing that you're going to do is celebrate your achievement, but remember this stat. The very first thing, guys, be proud, be happy, and celebrate that you achieved your fat loss goal in those 90 days. But you got to remember the stat, and it's going to kind of keep you grounded. Most men, or most people should say, even women and men, who lose a significant amount of weight gain it back, or actually 90% of them gain it back after 3 years. So you just cleared step number 1. But remember I talked before, it's very important that you make that next goal, because if you don't, you're going to fall under this statistic. And that's not what I want for you, especially if you worked this hard. Now, I went into a lot more detail in terms of like the stages of belly fat and what to expect. So if you want to watch it, I'll link it right here. Please like and subscribe, guys, if you enjoyed this video, and let me know in the comments below if you have any questions whatsoever. Thanks for watching.